So how can you create a community, an environment where the engagement and the connection is so strong that they don't want to live anywhere else because they feel like this is where they belong? And how can you extend that beyond the four walls that they live in at your community, but also into the neighborhood?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Multifamily Hangout. I'm your host, Adrian Danila, and I want to start by thanking our sponsors for making this broadcast possible. They are Seares and Coastal Painting Contractors. With this being said, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Chris Moreno. Take it away, sir.
Thanks, Adrian. I am super excited today. We have a great guest. Awesome to welcome Tina West, who is the EVP for Seares Regis on their client advisory team. So Tina is joining us from the West Coast, but she's focused on growing their footprint nationwide, well beyond its 7 states and an amazing 37,000 units. So we're going to dive in today to hear more about her 30 years more of experience and leadership. She came over from the Cushman and Wakefield team, where they managed 110,000 units from Texas to California. So really awesome to hear experiences on mixed use, multifamily, where the industry is going. She's also had numerous roles. She was COO, she was at Lenar, she was at LMC, Sunrise, Monarch, CBRE, Capstone. So the list goes on and on. She's gotten to work with so many great people. She's been able to be a mentor to other great people. So we'll dive into that. And then also hear about maybe some of the different types of assets she's seeing, from active adult to affordable to market rate. So really, really excited to have you. Thank you for joining us, Tina, today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get into a few things today, but you've had an unbelievable journey so far in multifamily. You continue to learn, continue to educate, continue to grow. If you go back to the beginning, like what's one piece of maybe unconventional advice that you might give to yourself or someone else?
Well, I'm not sure that it's unconventional, but most likely as you start a career or you're early in your career, there's this thing called fear. And I think what I've learned over my career is that most mistakes or missteps that we make are not fatal. So, we hold back out of fear. We're afraid to voice our opinion. We don't want to share, what our gut's telling us about the right thing to do, because what if it's not the right decision? We sometimes don't act out of that paralysis, that fear. So I think that's the thing that my younger self should have heard early and often, and certainly had leaders inspiring me over the years with that message. But taking action versus not taking any action, I think is the better path. And most of our fears are the stories that we're telling ourselves in our head, and likely will not be fatal if they're not the perfect answer.
Tina, you had an amazing career in multifamily. A lot of individuals are looking up to you, many of them live with us, and us included. What are some things that you would like to share from your extended experience and journey with others that might help them with their careers in multifamily?
Absolutely. Well, I've been in this industry actually a little over 35 years now. It's true. I started at 18, sort of waded my way through, had some fantastic leaders and mentors along the way. And I think that maybe is where I would start is, find yourself a mentor, find yourself a coach, find yourself and surround yourself. I call it your huddle. Make sure that you have a group of people, colleagues, leaders, mentors, coaches, friends in the industry, spouses, partners, friends, right? That will be honest with you and always give you feedback that you need to hear. I've learned over the years that when you have a relationship that's founded on trust, then you can hear the tough stuff, right? Because you know that person giving you the feedback really only wants to make you better, right? They want to better your best or help you better your best. So surround yourself with people, with leaders that are unafraid and not fearful of your success, but rather want you to succeed, because at the end of the day, that is the ultimate leadership goal, right? And journey is to help your team grow and be successful and really find the dreams that they're pursuing.
Was there maybe a time, you've obviously had some great movement in the industry. You've had a lot of successes, probably a lot of hiring moments. Like, was there a moment that stands out in your career where everything was just starting to click? You talked about that fear of uncertainty, but things just really started to click and you were making a significant impact on the team?
Goodness, I have so many fun memories. Again, I'm just so blessed to have done, I think, what I've done over the years. In every chapter, I think there have been moments of success and victory, obviously, and I'm having a blast, today as well in my current career and journey. I would say my last journey with Cushman, I was running the West, as you mentioned, Texas West. I had 110,000 units in my portfolio. In my time at Cushman, I was able to bring in about 35 folks onto my teams across various markets. So I feel like I had rebuilt my dream team, many of those that I had worked with in other lives, in other chapters. I also had a fantastic business partner on the client advisory, biz dev side. And, we were moving and grooving. We were growing the organization, our portfolio. We were winning business. I had amazing talent that I could speak of and to when we were, presenting business to our clients. We brought in about 168 properties in about 2 years in the West region. So that felt like, it was a well-oiled machine. Flywheel was turning. We had synergy, and we were having a lot of fun. We were focused on execution, and I think that was the key. But that's just one moment. Most recently, where I feel like everything was just really coming together from, you bringing all the experiences of all of my teammates, of all of my past chapters, and bringing that into what I would consider to be a very effective strategy. And of course, now doing that same thing here with my SRG family.
It takes a special set of skills to scale organizations, and you've done this over and over again. What are the best lessons that you've learned from these experiences, from scaling, taking organizations and like growing them? And I'm thinking growing them fast at a very fast pace.
Yeah. And I think that's probably both the strategy and the lessons learned there, right? One of the things that we say here at SRG is we are not looking to grow to grow. We're not trying to be the biggest, we're trying to be the best. I think sometimes in an organization, in any industry, right, you grow so fast. And if you don't have the back of house support, if you don't have that infrastructure to support the growth, then you're not going to grow well. You may bring in the business, but if you can't execute the plan, if you can't do what you say you're going to do, then that growth will be stunted. And then, of course, reputationally, things start to, show that maybe you didn't have the right backbone, if you will, of an organization to grow. So I think I've created and built 5 verticals in my career, all very different, several owner operators, some third party, some hybrid. And each of them, I would say, not managing the growth well, making sure you have the right people in the right positions, making sure you have the right processes and programs and infrastructure in the back, making sure your back of house departments and teams recognize like really their sole existence is to support your operators. Because if your operators can't operate and execute, then ultimately you're not going to be able to do what you say you're going to do and execute the business plan. So grow intentionally, make sure that you're set up for success, and review your progress along the way. You may need to reset and rethink that growth strategy and maybe restructure some of your planning along the way.
I'm kind of curious to know, like, obviously, you've got a lot of common myths around multifamily, whether it's on the management side or operations or asset management. I'm kind of curious if there's any myths you'd love to debunk today.
I can't remember the name of the TV show. I'm sure some of my friends that might be listening will remember the old visual of the property manager that was sitting at a desk with the curlers in the hair, with the pink fluffy robe, smoking a cigarette. Like that's how our industry was perceived when I was first starting in the business. And I think over the years, so much has changed, right? You now have universities that have degrees in real estate and in development. So you've got organizations like IRUM and all of the industry organizations that we work with from the apartment association and such that have really taken the perception of our industry to another level. But I think what most outsiders don't realize is that we're really a master of all trades in order to be successful, right? We're salespeople. We are relationship managers. We're counselors. We're collection agencies, we're marketers, we're risk managers, we're accounting pros. There is such a wide skill set and there is such a high level of thinking that really does and needs to go into our day to day. And I don't think the average outsider, when most people are like, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm in multifamily. Well, what's that? Well, I'm in the apartment business. Oh, what do you do? I think the outside world doesn't really understand all that we do. And I think, again, that's changing and has changed. But I think that's the longstanding myth of what we do.
What's a counterintuitive strategy or decision that you have made that ended up being a game changer for your portfolio for a business expansion?
Game changing. Well, I think of my first foray into third party management. So I had been with owner operators. My first role was with Lincoln Property Company when I was 18, right in school. And then I moved over to Monarch Group. We were a developer, owner operator, and we had built our vertical to manage our own portfolio. And one day, my business partner said, we were in a lull, a development lull, right? It's cycles. And he said, I think it's time to go share our story and offer our services to other owners. And at that point in my career, I was probably 8, 9, 10 years in, and I'd never done third-party management. I'd never sold third-party management business. And so I was like, well, I'm not really sure how I'm going to do this. So I just started picking up the phone and calling owners. And one of my first meetings was with Brad Korzen at the Core Group. And I'll never forget, I walked into his office, lovely man. I'm still in touch with him today, but it was him behind his desk, and the chairs behind his desk were really low. And so I sat down, and like my head was like this on his, on his desk. And, he said, I don't understand why you would want to work for us. Like, you have your own management company, you manage your own assets. Like, why are you here anyway? For a newbie doing this, that was a really scary question. And I just said, well, we have a story to share. We've been really successful in managing our portfolio. We're driving uncommon results. I think you need to hear how we do it. And I'd love to partner up. And he shut his management company down, and we, started managing his entire organization's portfolio. So that was my first foray into third party management. It was a big win. It was scary. I felt the fear and did it anyway, and learned a lot along the way. One of the things I said to him before we got the whole portfolio is I said, give me one. Just give me one, give me your toughest one, and let me show you what we can do. And he did. He gave us this property down by San Diego State University. I think they were in low 80s at the time. About 60 days later, we were running 95, 96% occupied. Collections had improved drastically. And he's like, okay, here you go. And that was the start of my third party experience in this industry.
Giving people their shot in that moment. Can you think of a time like when we're willing to give a shot to someone else and shape their career in the industry? This sounds like a pivotal time for you, but was there an inspiring moment or a time you gave someone a shot and they just blew you away?
So many of those moments, I would say. I've been so fortunate. I mean, the relationships that I have forged and still have today with team members that have worked for me 20, 25 years ago are many. I'm always looking for talent. One of my mantras is hire the heart, train the skill. So when I see somebody that has a heart for service and that gets it, I'll bring them into the organization. Just one story. Years ago, I was downtown at the Hyatt. There was a young man working the front desk, and I'm like, he blew me away. And I said, you need to come work for me. Like, absolutely, you are exactly who we are looking for in this industry. And you're going to create an environment where, your service mentality is going to just take you far and bring great success. And he did. He took the leap of faith. We're in touch this many years later. From that time, he was a leasing manager, a leasing professional, leasing manager. Now he's like running an organization, portfolio asset manager. And so we still laugh about that day. It's like, had you never come up to me and said, hey, come do this, like, I don't know what I'd be doing. And I have so many of those stories. They're so fun. I think that's the thing that drives me most is when, I can find somebody, see somebody, partner with somebody, and like help bring out their best so that they can be wildly successful.
The third-party management business, it's extremely complex because you had to deal with several ownership groups at a time. What are some things that you're hearing from your clients that keeps them awake at night? Some concerns, major concerns that they have with the current economical environment.
Sure. Well, and again, this is a cyclical industry, right? We've gone through many ups and downs. And I think, some of what we're seeing today is what we've heard before, only maybe at a greater level. A couple of years ago, one of the things we said is it's all eyes on operations, right? We need to know how to control what we can because of what we can't. So we can't control the rising insurance costs and what's happening to our clients' policies and 40% increases. We can't control interest rates. We can't control like the real estate tax situation. So what can we control? And really just making sure that we are honing in on our day-to-day operations. It's back to the basics. It's making sure that you have a keen eye and attention to detail. It's making sure that you leave no stone unturned when you're looking at opportunities to create ancillary revenue. Again, what can you control? And if you stay super hyper focused on the details and the day-to-day operations and let nothing go by the wayside, I think we're able to drive results that are, offsetting a lot of what's coming at our owners in the way of economic impacts.
How do you think about like your career? And were there times where maybe you took a leap of faith and you did something that was unorthodox and it turned out to be a great opportunity? Like I think about mine, and there was a massive time in my career where I did something that went against the grain, but people told me, my mentors told me it was the greatest thing ever. Curious if you had any of those kind of moments in your career.
Sure. Well, every journey from one company to another, I think, is a bit of a leap of faith, right? Because, what if? Is it the right company? Is it the right fit? Is it the right role? And every next role for me, therein lies a little bit of that fear. Am I ready? When I moved into a COO role and moved from Southern California and San Diego to Austin, like that was huge. I had left LMC. My mom was diagnosed with cancer. I was her caregiver. I had no job for about 4.5 months because I became her caregiver. At that point, the recruiters were calling, and this one opportunity in Austin to be the COO was the one that ultimately caused us to move to Austin. And I just remember telling my coach and my head, like, I'm not ready. Like, they're like, you're ready. This is your next step. Like, what, how are you not ready? And then I remembered thinking, well, I can't move my family. One of my sons, I have a lot of kiddos. One of them, he was going into high school and he's like, let's do it. It'll be fun. And that move, into that role, I think really kind of propelled me for every next role that I had since then. So, see, that was a massive leap of faith. Not only was I taking a next role, but I was also moving my entire family out of state, and I'd never lived anywhere else. So all of that really led to, where I am today and gave me a lot of exposure, experience, lessons learned, and growth, and people and relationships along the way.
Tina, I want to go ask a leadership question next. You've led teams of thousands of members. What's a leadership principle or philosophy that you follow that others might find surprising?
Surprising. I don't know that it's going to be surprising to anybody, but there's two things that I think kind of drive my initial and then long-term relationships or ongoing relationships. One is it's the upfront agreement or the upfront contract. So when I'm engaged in finding and hiring somebody for a role, it's really important to get to know them. That upfront learning and agreement and understanding of each other and the role is so critical. And I think we probably don't spend enough time doing that. And we kind of jump into a relationship, we put someone in a role and, maybe it wasn't the right fit, or maybe the synergy between you and that person or you and that company. So having that upfront agreement and being able to say, look, here's how you communicate with me best. This is what I need from you. What do you need from me? Right. And having that agreement on, okay, how are we going to set the stage for the best working relationship? From there, then I'm going to reference Crucial Conversations, one of the best books in leadership strategies. And it's all about communication and crucial conversations, having the hard conversations. When things are going sideways, when things aren't meshing, when there's been a miscommunication, it's being willing and open to have those conversations. Like, if I need to hear something to one of my team members, let me know if I'm doing anything that's going to get in your way or is getting in your way, vice versa, being able to have that open, honest dialogue, because that's where you grow. And I think, again, it goes back to the trust. If you have trust in a relationship, then you can have that, because my team knows at the end of the day, I might give some tough feedback, but it's only because I want to better your best. And my ultimate motivation is your success. That's how I lead. That's how you can work through years of growth, setbacks, right? Obstacles. And that's where you become stronger, and that's where you grow.
What are some of the things you're going through tough times, or if you have a long day, what do you like to do? Is it podcasts? Is it reading? Are there other things you like to do?
Run. Running is my drug. I say, I don't drink, don't smoke, don't do drugs, but I do run. Yeah, no, running is my time. It's my space. It is what I do when I need to clear my head. It makes me just kind of rejuvenated. It keeps me energized. I've had a tough week. Inevitably, my husband will be like, go for a long run. And that's really where I clear my head. That said, I also have just a fantastic support network. Back to that huddle, my business coach, my husband, they've been by my side 30 years of doing this. And so, I can easily pick up a phone call and be like, all right, I need to check in here, and you need to check me and let me know, am I off course? Am I out of my lane? Like, talk to me.
And now a word from Dean Fungawing, founder and CEO, Kairos.
Next is this fire protection, solution around kitchen fires, right? Again, we are not by any means saying that this is replacing your fire suppression system. This is replacing your building's fire protection systems, which are all regulated by, fire departments and local codes and all that, right? You still have to have all that. But I'm telling you, there's actually a step before any of those systems go off. And that is just knowing what the temperature in that kitchen above that stove is in real time. You knowing that is the difference between you stopping a fire in an apartment and not. If you knew that apartment was 100 degrees, Adrian, you could get to it with a fire extinguisher. You could wake up the resident, open that door, get in there, solve that problem before it spreads to the whole building. Again, you can also notify the fire department just by the moment that kitchen's over 100 degrees, notify the fire department via text message, email, phone call. You can notify your local building engineer, your maintenance staff, your property management team. Everybody needs to know the moment that apartment's over 100 degrees. Simple solution to a problem nobody ever wants to think about. But this is a life safety issue, and it's no one else's responsibility except for a building owner to make sure that we take care of that building and make sure we protect residents. So we're here to help if that's something that folks are interested in.
Tina, the technology landscaping in our industry, what do you see some great trends, some very important trends in technology when it comes to property management? And then what are some challenges that you're seeing? What are some solutions that we could find for those challenges? I'm basing my question on the fact that when COVID hit, there was a lot of technology that was developed to replace the one-on-one interactions. And now we're facing like a flood. We've been flooded with technology, and it's extremely hard to vet, first of all, the useful technology from the not so useful, and also prioritize really, because although you could basically have anything you want when it comes to technology that applies to you, you can't have everything you want. So, it has to be a vetting process. So I'm curious about what you're seeing as a whole, and then what's your approach on vetting technology and picking the right pieces of technology to help you operate?
Well, before COVID, we were seeing some technology changes and advancements in our industry. And I said it then, and I'm going to continue to say it because I think it still rings true, which is really the ability to marry up high touch and high tech. We're in a people industry, so we're a high touch industry. And now we have this technology that I think is allowing us to do our jobs differently, sometimes easier, sometimes not as easy, right? And so to your point, tech stacks can be cumbersome if they're not integrated. So I would say a couple of things. Centralization is a big word. I call it efficiencies. Using technology to help create those efficiencies and allow our teams to not have to do the repetitive, mundane, tasks that technology can do. Right? That's one thing. That's one benefit of technology. Being able to be available to our customers 24/7, because that is now the expectation. Technology allows us to do that as well. So I think the technology advances really help our team members focus more on what matters, in my opinion, which is the people, right? The relationships, the service. And so allowing technology and choosing technology that integrates into your process so that your teams can focus on the people, the relationships, and the service side of our business. If we can marry that up well, I think that's where the success lies. Every day there's something new. Every day there's some crossover, and some do 5 things, some do 7, some crossover. We have fantastic people in this space across the industries, internal, external to our organization. And I think having house views, beta tests, early rollouts to see kind of what's working, what's integrated. When technology isn't integrated, it can become clunky and the user experience can become poor. And Adrian, we talk about this on our Innovation Council a lot. But I think when you think about the end user experience, whether that's the prospect or our internal teams, right? It has to be user friendly. It has to be easy. It has to synchronize with their day to day. Otherwise, you're going to spend more time figuring it out and frustrated than you are benefiting from the seamlessness as it should be.
Yeah, definitely the adoption rates are a big thing to me. They matter a lot, because I know that ultimately you could make the best sell, or your product could look like the best shiny object out there. But if it's not embraced by the end user, I think on a long run is not a winner. You can't really win, because management companies can't really justify using something that has like paying for something that has a low adoption rate.
I think one of the things you think about is like being able to have a wide filter in life, or a wide funnel, I should say, in life, and being able to try things and taste things and test things. And you've obviously done so much, right? You've launched new programs, new initiatives, worked in multiple roles at once, managed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of units and massive teams. How do you stay focused? How do you manage all of these different things and maintain the balance and stay? Because I've learned that people like yourself, you have to have incredible focus. Is that true, or are you doing something totally different?
Do I have a secret sauce? Work-life balance. Everyone's talked about this for years, right? And I would love to say that I've got that figured out. I think it's hard, when you're passionate about something. I love this business, so I can easily get all consumed and, be 24/7. But I think it really comes back to your personal values and priorities. What's important to you. So for me, I have 7 kids. I'm a mom of many. I'm a wife. We just celebrated 30-year wedding anniversary, 33 together. And that's my passion. That's my love first. And my career second, my health, right? And staying healthy and such. So knowing what your priorities are and then creating boundaries, it's hard to do sometimes. And it's not always perfect, right? There are times where you're off. And I think the thing that I would highly suggest is to be self-aware. Self-awareness is so huge in life, work, personally. If you're self-aware, you can start to understand yourself better and know when you're off. Also, back to that coach, mentor, that person that can say, hey, it looks like you're kind of like off balance again, let's reel you back in, and having that person that can bring you back. So, I think we're always going to struggle with it. If you're passionate about what you do, you just love it and you want to do more of it. And I can easily get sucked into 24/7. But I don't want to lose the moments with my kiddos. I already have, 3 out of the house and 4 left. I'm going to eat that up. So, it brings me back to, again, your why and like grounded. How can I ground myself and really stay true to my core values?
Tina, a very important segment of our followers, it's made by the professionals that work on a vendor, on a service provider side. If I was a service provider and I had a meeting with Tina tomorrow, what are some things that you could coach me on to impress her, to just get a wow moment, and eventually, hopefully, right, get to start building a relationship, do business with Tina's company?
So, our industry partners are invaluable. I think, I see all of our industry partners as really an extension of our organizations. Who you partner with matters. When we look at partnerships, we're looking at, what not just pricing, right? But obviously we're looking at pricing, but how do you get the best quality and the best service? Because at the end of the day, again, you're a reflection of us. You're an extension of us. And so I would say when I meet with any of our industry partners, I want to understand the product, the service. If these are our core values as an organization, how do those marry up with your companies and with you as an individual? Because how you treat my team, how you treat my residents, how you treat our prospects, it's really going to be, again, a reflection of us. And so I think those are things that really matter. I have so many long-standing relationships and a lot of new ones. I think the hardest part for me personally is that I wish I could talk to everybody. I wish I could work with more, right? I mean, there's a lot of business to go around. I feel badly when I can't always provide business opportunities for our vendor partners, our industry partners, but that would be, I would say, what's the value proposition? How are we aligned from a value standpoint? How is your service going to support our customers, internal and external? And how can we really create a synergy that will really impact everything that we touch?
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think a lot of people assume one thing, especially looking at different kinds of industries and whatnot. Curious to know also, how do you think about goals and achievements in your career, and maybe some as an example of what you've been really proud of?
I love goal setting. It's not a New Year's resolution. I actually, my Decembers and my Januaries are really important to me, but I regularly check in throughout the year. I think it's important every year. I want to do a look back and say, okay, how did I do against the goals that I had? What do I want to do next? Were they too lofty? Were they not lofty enough? Or do I want to continue to make an impact? I have my goals actually set out in buckets of themes. So I have my personal goals, my social goals, my family goals, my work, my professional goals, and my physical and health goals. And so literally every year I get out, I'm still using my Franklin planner. I'm old school that way. And I have to write them down because I'm also a dominant. So I've got to check it off to feel like I'm doing anything and being successful. But I'll bucket my goals, and I'll set goals, I'll look back, I'll review, and I'll regularly check in over the year to see how I'm doing. Because it's not going to feel good come December if I look back and I'm like, whoop, I didn't check anything off that list. I might have to reassess them and revise them along the way. I'm a runner, had knee surgery a couple of years ago. I had lofty goals to run a Triple Crown, marathon series the year of my surgery. Didn't happen. So, you got to reassess. Having goals and having something to kind of look for and strive towards is also what propels me. If I'm not training for a half marathon, I'm running aimlessly. I don't really have a plan. So sometimes I'll put myself on a plan just to have a plan because it keeps me going, keeps me kind of checked in.
Are you part of the all day running group, Jesse Itzler? I don't know if you follow him.
I am not.
Okay.
I am not.
I'll have to send that to you afterwards. He's incredible. He's here in the neighborhood, but he's incredible talking about setting your life around daily goals, weekly goals, and then running. Yeah. He's an insane runner. So really cool thing to check out. Anyone you follow in the running world? I love your analogy with sports.
Yeah, I know. I'm a sports mom. I'm a soccer mom. I'm a basketball mom. I'm married to a basketball guy. Sport. All of my analogies are generally going to be around sports. My son, one of my sons is in college, and he took after mom. He's running cross country and track, and so I follow him. I follow his training. He's in a couple of running groups as well, just for long runs. And so follow a lot of groups to just mainly get inspired and motivated. I have an old industry partner friend, Mel O'Keefe, who continues to run. And so we'll regularly check in and be like, hey, how's it going? What are you doing now? How are you keeping the training going? So it's all over the place.
Tina, one of the challenges that we're facing as an industry is a shortage of talent, of talented individuals to come join our industry. And I have a theory that, worldwide, businesses are expanding at a larger rate than the population grows. So this is going to be in our lifetime an ongoing challenge. We're not just competing with the property down the road or, another property management company, but pretty much with everybody that hires in a physical area, and also businesses that are hiring remote workers or gigs like Uber and things of that nature. So with that type of context, those type of challenges, what are some things that, we should be doing as an industry to alleviate this pain, to do better when it comes to attracting great talent?
Sure. Well, another one of my mantras is always be recruiting. I'll boast just a moment to say I feel like I don't have a shortage of talent that want to work with our organization. And there's a variety of reasons for that. But I think as an organization, we need to provide an opportunity for a career path for folks. I don't think there's enough time spent looking at career paths and how can you create a career path for somebody. So you want to make sure your teams understand that If their dream is this path or that path, our goal is to get you there. And if you spend enough time with your existing team members, showing them a path forward and that they can have a longstanding career with you and you give them those opportunities, I think your retention will be amazing. Our average regional and above tenure at SRG is 10 years. Like, you don't hear that. I have individuals that have worked for me for over 20 years and have followed me from company to company. That's huge. I think, always be recruiting, create a culture of support, focus on career path, and especially post-COVID, right? I think the remote work from home dynamic is what I think has allowed folks to realize that I should have more flexibility. I can do more remotely or in less time or in a flexible way. So as an organization, how can we be flexible? Are there remote positions that we can offer our team members? One of the things that Camden learned when they were rolling out their centralized call center was that they had a lot of single parents that frankly couldn't work during the day, that the remote work was so valuable for them. And so the after hours call center was such a gift for them during that rollout because they saved a lot of people from leaving their organization because they had after hour positions. So can we get creative? Can we get flexible? There's certain things that we can't really be flexible on because again, we're customer facing, but what can we do to really show up in a way that our associates believe we care, we've got a career path for them, and that we appreciate them. Cannot forget that, right? You've got to feel that you are challenged, appreciated, and rewarded for the hard work that you do.
Curious to hear too. I know you've done a lot of work with different organizations and philanthropy as well. I'm looking for advice myself. I just got involved, just joined a board here in Atlanta, the Chastain Park Conservancy. And I'm learning from a lot of great people about philanthropy and supporting nonprofits. How do you dive in? Have you dived in personally? Do you also dive in with work? And can you share a little bit about how you spend your time there?
Sure. I mean, I wish I could do more, frankly. There's only so many hours in a day, large family, big job, right? So I wish I could do more. But what I would say is that giving back, it feels good. It's really just about that servant heart. So one of the programs that I'm involved in is Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Again, it's near and dear to my heart. It's athletic. I'm a believer. So for me, it's connected. And so being able to talk to teenagers and kids at high schools about life, about career, about choices, to me, it fills my bucket and hopefully it's filling theirs. In our industry, there's a lot of opportunities to be part of charitable organizations. We as an organization try to give back. So encouraging our teams to come together and do something. We did a big diaper drive when I was at LMC. It was our annual fundraiser and it was 5 organizations, 5 developers who would come together and we would build houses with diapers. It was so fun. And yet it served such a great need, for parents that didn't have enough money for diapers for their babies. And so giving back fills you inside. When you focus on others, your own problems become less because you're focused on others. But what it does for you inside and as a team serving together, I can't tell you how amazing it feels.
Tina, I want to go next with a question from the audience. I think it's a very timely question given the current economical environment. Shazia has this question. What are some of your strategies for reducing resident turnover? How has it changed? And how do you see it changing in the next 7 to 10 years? How do you track the trends to predict that?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to keep your eyes open and your ear to the ground. You have to know what resident and customer sentiment is. And that's one thing that I love to do is really understand from our consumers what they're looking for, what they want. And when you do that, I think you can serve up, what they're looking for. One thing I believe in is differentiation through service. In a sea of choice, there's so many opportunities and choices for apartment living. And, we're constantly up against just a host of competitors. So how do you stand apart? How do you differentiate? If you can differentiate through service, I think absolutely that sense of engagement and connection with your residents is paramount. Apartment Life has a quote, a stat that says for every 7 friends a resident makes, they're more than 57% likely to renew their lease. So how can you create a community, an environment where the engagement and the connection is so strong that they don't want to live anywhere else because they feel like this is where they belong? And how can you extend that beyond the 4 walls that they live in at your community, but also into the neighborhood? I think if you create an environment that is so magnetic for the people that live with you and the teams that are serving them, I think differentiation through service leads absolutely, without question, statistically, to stronger retention.
I love that. Apartment life is doing, and I think those magical moments, right, that differentiate people are huge, especially not only in life, but in our industry. And I think a lot about like hospitality and how hospitality from hotels can be so useful in multifamily. I'm kind of curious on that note. If you had a crystal ball, like as you're thinking forward in the future, what's maybe a bold prediction you have about that's maybe non-consensus around multifamily in the next decade or 5 years? Is it as people are using more and more technology? Do you think they're going to go that way? Is it something different? Is it more that we're going to be more hands-on? What are your thoughts on technology?
Well, I think, again, I think technology will continue to evolve. We'll continue to have more and more opportunities. I think AI and all of that is going to really improve over the years. I don't think that we're going to lose sight of the fact that, again, high touch, high tech. I think the people side of it, the experience side of it, the connection engagement side of our business, I don't see that changing. I mean, I know there's communities that are rolling out with like no staffs, and that's working, but there still has to be a sense of support, service, and engagement. And I'm sure they're doing that through, events and coordinated services and such. I think one thing, it's always back to the basics. That will also never change. Raving fans, Ken Blanchard said it best. You cannot deliver the wow or that +1 if you can't do the basics consistently. So that's not going to change. You've got to have a clean community. You've got to have attention to detail. You've got to do those basics. If you don't meet the basics, no one's going to ever feel that experience, that differentiation through experience or the wow factor or the memorable moment. You can't have that if the basics cannot be met. So that to me will always be a core of our industry.
Tina, for a young person coming out of school, high school, or just finished college, just graduated, they're ready to enter the real life. What are some pieces of advice that you would share?
So I'm having this conversation with my son, who's going to be a senior this year in college. He's getting ready and has been looking for opportunities. He wants to follow in mom's footsteps. I'm like, oh gosh. But, I think be coachable. You're coming out of school. If you are coming out of school, you're likely new to the industry. You don't know what you don't know. Absorb it all. Be a sponge and, decide really early how you want to make a difference, how you want to stand out. You want to be known as somebody that provides exceptional service. If somebody, that wants to have just stellar relationships, how are you going to make your mark on the world? Always do more than asked. Show up, be early, stay late, be that person that is there when the opportunity arises, and be coachable. Be coachable, be coachable, be coachable. And lastly, if you have resilience, resilience can be learned. Resilience is key because you're going to be knocked down. I still get knocked down regularly. I have not seen it all. I've not done it all. But your ability to get back up and say, okay, here's what I'm going to learn from that, and I'm going to move on. Have a short-term memory. It's like in sports, right? I've got an 8, a 10, and a 12 that are all elite soccer players. One of them, my 10-year-old, he's got a short-term memory. He will miss a PK and the next opportunity comes up and he's like, put me on coach. And coach is like, you just missed. And he's like, I won't miss this time. My 12-year-old misses a PK and can't get it out of his head, right? That mental toughness is key in life. I call that grit and resilience. That's what I would tell someone coming out of college, entering the real world.
And I think a lot of times we need people who can believe in us more than ourselves sometimes, right? We need people like you giving us the confidence, support, the right way of thinking. How can we and the audience, as they're listening to this, how can we best support you? How can we best help you? What are the top goals for you right now that we could help you achieve?
Oh my gosh, what a fun question. Look, my why is people. It's my team, it's my clients, right? So I feel supported so supported. I work with a fantastic leader. I'm surrounded by great people. I have great industry friends and relationships. I know I've got a cheerleading crowd. Just before this, Joseph Knack was like, "Yay, I'm gonna be there." And there's so many of those people in my world. I'm so blessed for that. That support is fantastic. So thank you. I'm gonna continue to make mistakes, but I'm gonna continue to step out and push harder. We are 37,000 units at SRG. I want to be 50,000 units in the near term, continue to build best in class teams. And I want to continue to, add fantastic clients, share our story, and execute the plan. So I get a lot of folks that are like, do you have anything? Or, do you have a role? So keep at it. Timing's everything. Always looking to build that bench of just top talent and have fun in what we do.
Tina, the journey to the top could feel very lonely at times. I speak for myself. I don't know if you experienced that. So I would like for you to share. How do you overcome if you ever feel that way or ever felt that way? How did you overcome?
Sure. Well, I think in some cases that saying it's lonely at the top, I mean, there's truth in that, right? Because as a leader, you don't always have a lot of people above you, right? And so you can't vent down. You really need to vent up. And that's, I think, where that loneliness comes from. Also that fear, that imposter syndrome of I'm not good enough. It's real. Every new chapter for me in my career has been a lot of conversations with my business coach has been with me for nearly 30 years. I mean, besides my husband, she knows me better than anybody. And so, we have a lot of dialogue around life choices, business choices, my husband as well. So surround yourself with folks that will lift you up, that are not afraid of your success, that really want you to succeed. And I think that makes it a lot less lonely without a doubt.
Adrian and I have actually been going to some of these events, and it's been amazing to be able to interviewing people and getting their thoughts on the industry and getting perspective and advice. What's the rest of the year look like for you? What are you excited about getting out there in real life, whether it's your properties, whether it's maybe some leadership events? And are you going to be speaking anywhere where we can support you?
If only I could attend all of the conferences. I'd be like a professional conference goer. You have to pick and choose. I definitely have some that I regularly attend. I'll be speaking at the women's event, multifamily event in September. I think I'm also going to be speaking at a BizNow event and upcoming. If I can share some of my experience, my knowledge, I'm all for that. For me personally, or professionally, again, I'm excited for the growth that we have at Seares Regis. Most folks that know of Seares Regis know us as a California-based company. They don't realize that we are in 7 states now, and that we are even that we're a third-party management company. Because we do have a fund, we have an ownership arm, if you will, within our organization. So my journey has been to really get the word out and let others know that this is who we are, this is what we do, and grow the organization. Having a blast, have been really busy, and I'm excited for some of the growth that we've had and some of the growth that I know is forthcoming. So that's what my near-term future looks like.
Tina, one of the things that I've been thinking about lately is that, we're only around for a limited period of time. Some will argue for a short period of time. Legacy comes into place. How would you like to be remembered when it's all said and done?
That's a big question. So when I was at Monarch Group, my team there called me Mama Tina. I think it was a play on the fact that I had a lot of kids, but also that I cared about them as their mom would, right? As a parent would. And I have a lot of team members, past, current, and future. I think the legacy that I would want to leave is, I was somebody that they could look up to, that I did what I say I'm going to do, that I had integrity, that I was there for them, that I encouraged them, that I helped them achieve their dreams. I mean, literally just this past 2 weeks, I helped 4 of my former team members get connected with new companies and roles. I'm regularly getting asked for, hey, can you be a reference? Can you write, something for me? So I think I just want to be top of mind when they think of somebody that inspired them throughout their career and that was there for them in a way that that they needed to be. That's what I want in this industry.
How has the industry changed over the years, especially as a woman? And do you feel the industry embraces diversity? What are the hidden opportunities that you have leverage for both your team and clients? So it's kind of like two questions.
In terms of diversity and being a woman in the industry, I mean, I feel so fortunate. I don't feel like I've missed opportunities because I was a female in the industry. Personally, I know that may not be the case or ring true for everybody, but I really don't feel like I've been roadblocked because of that. I will say that, if you look then and now at our industry and the high level positions, there are more women today in executive roles in our industry than were when I first started. Like, that's just a fact. And I think, the DEI focus that many organizations have, and most recently in the past 2 years, I'm seeing a lot of high level roles and opportunities be filled by women as well. I mean, at the end of the day, I would say it's who is the most deserving individual for the role, regardless of sex or gender or any of that, right? We have to fill positions. It's excellence in every seat, the right people in the right positions, and that's what matters.
I love the message. I love it's all about meritocracy. Ultimately, you can run a business without competent people, and you want to make sure that everybody has a fair opportunity. You just mentioned if we're looking at a lineup of guests that we have, I think the percentage is for female guests is like 2-1 between female and male, with advantage for for female leaders and executives, and that's for a good reason, right? Because that's like at the very top, our industry, there's a lot of female leaders that have emerged, and there's a very good representation at the very top in most of the organizations, I should say.
Yeah, I will just add one thing. I think it is known today that high EQ, so emotional intelligence over high IQ, is really going to be paramount to success as a leader. And I think that, like, mic drop, if you can focus on your emotional intelligence in any industry and in life, like, that is going to be the thing over the IQ that will really, I think, prove up a very successful leadership career.
Tina, it's been amazing to have you on today. Thank you for the time that you spend with us. I'd like to give you the opportunity to share some final thoughts and also to share some ways in which the audience could reach out if they want to get in contact with you.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. It was fun. I love the questions. And I would say anybody in the audience, I mean, you probably already know how to reach me. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I'm glad to have a conversation and share any words of wisdom that I have. I would say this to everybody: sky's the limit. Go big, dream big, surround yourself with the right huddle, the right support team, have big, audacious goals, and don't let anything or anyone get in your way. Work hard, because it doesn't come without hard work. Learn resilience, focus on the EQ, and just rock it.
Chris Moreno, any final thoughts?
Love it. I love the great advice, the tips. You've obviously earned the stripes, and I can't wait to see you again soon. And we'll have to hear how that event goes in the fall. And but yeah, thanks for sharing today, and can't wait to have a round number 2, Tina.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us today. Thank you, Tina, once again. An amazing conversation. Also want to thank our sponsors for making this broadcast possible. They are Kairos and Coastal Paint Contractors. Until next week, we have another amazing guest. Her name is Lisa Taylor with Greystar. So until next week, have an amazing rest of the week, and we'll see you next Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time.